Are you considering your first combo ceremony? Well, here are some things I think you should know before you do. To start off, I should give you the background of how I came across combo. And it was actually relatively early on my healing journey. And I'd never heard of it, never heard anyone talk about it in person or even on the podcasts I was listening to that were talking about healing and spirituality. But what I did come across were people talking about ayahuasca. That was starting to be a relatively trendy topic on like Joe Rogan's podcast. And this is back in the day. I know he's changed a lot since he went on Spotify. But back then, I thought it was really useful. He had people on that gave a lot of great information. And based on how they were describing it, I was like, that's it. I have to do ayahuasca. I was just at that point on my journey where I had nothing to lose. I had to do whatever it took. And I was willing because I knew something was off, something was wrong. I didn't like who I'd become, and I knew I had to change that. So I started doing research on ayahuasca, which I definitely recommend anyone who's considering it really do. At least 3 to 4 months. You can certainly do longer because it's ultimately a matter of if you feel called. You don't want to do plant medicines or combo or anything like that unless you really get the call. They're certainly not something you want to just do on a whim because the experience can be so powerful. You really want to be prepared. And it's not just like physical dieta, but also mentally and spiritually as well. So after looking into it more, I was even more convinced this is for me, for sure. The problem was I didn't know anyone in the States that served it. So I figured at some point I'd have to go down to the jungle, probably Peru, because at that point, and this is going back around 8 years ago, at that point, those were really the only retreat centers that had actual footage promoting their services. It was pretty sparse back then. It's really grown in popularity since. But the interesting thing, while I was researching ayahuasca, I had come across Kambo because especially a lot of the places in South America, they serve it before ayahuasca. Well, really a lot of the plant medicines, because then the plant medicines are allowed to go deeper. And I was really fascinated about it, but I was also intimidated because, and I haven't looked lately, but I knew for a while that a lot of the top search results for combo showed a lot of the crazy stuff. I remember the first video that would pop up was I did combo and then I aged like 100 years or something. Then I watched the video and it had nothing to do with that. So it was real clickbait. It was just I think it's like some former Playboy model who went there and did it. And the video really didn't do it justice, really didn't show what it was like or the benefits or anything like that. So it wasn't really helpful. And I know within the next few years, there was one video that turned up pretty high, the search results, and it just showed these guys going to a Brazilian village. And then they put the combo medicine on, and then they tried to run to the riverbank, and one guy was having trouble making it and just like fell face down in the mud. And it's intimidating because you're like, oh man, is that what it's going to be like? But no, I mean, yeah, if you go to a crazy place, yeah, I guess that's what it could be like. And there are crazy places for sure. I'll have to get into that a different time. But yes, so I was a little like, oh man, what's this? There's all the, there was a little intimidation because I also looked up on the forums what it was like. And there was one response that I remember to this day. The person said Kambo was a great teacher about being in the moment. He said that when it was on, he was so miserable, he couldn't think of anything else. And I know exactly what he meant. And I would also agree with that. And obviously, no one wants to be or feel miserable, but it's also nice in a way to be able to get out of your head like that. Because as hard and intense as the combo can be, sometimes our own thoughts are much, much worse, I found. So after reading that, I was like, okay, I want to do combo because it seemed to deal with the things I was going through and having trouble getting over as well. So I'm like, oh, wow, I got to try this. So I looked it up. And back then, believe it or not, combo still wasn't too common. Where now you could argue there's an oversaturation with practitioners. Then there wasn't, because there are only just a handful of places you could get certified, which actually is how it should be, because now I would say definitely the wrong types of people are being trained. And I say trained in quotes because they just don't have enough experience and there's a lot more things going wrong now. But all that aside, there was this one lady who normally served it on the outskirts of the county that I lived in Los Angeles. But so I reached out to her, and it turns out she was actually serving it like within the coming weeks at this house that was actually pretty close to where I lived. So I'm like, well, that is certainly a synchronicity looking back at it, even though I don't think I used the word synchronicity just yet back then. So I booked it and I go, she sent me this preparation packet and it was pretty thorough. It was kind of made me even more intimidated because I'm like, oh man, I got to prepare just right. And it went over what I could expect, what the medicines would do, which were included. And the main thing was I had to fast beforehand. I could just have water. I didn't want to overhydrate, but could just drink as needed before, and to bring water to the ceremony. Because back then, the recommended amount you drank was 2 liters right before the combo goes on. And that's also up for debate now, but another thing that I will get into at a different time. So I end up going, and it was a small, basically private ceremony, even though I was invited and didn't know anyone else there. But there were 3 other guys, and they had all received combo, and one of the guys owned the house there. And he built this nice sanctuary in this ADU kind of converted garage in his backyard, but it was just dedicated to being a healing space, which was really nice. So I'm the only first timer there, which kind of made me more nervous. And I remember towards the beginning, I even asked one of the guys who was to my side a question, and it was a legitimate one. It was about what was going to happen. But the practitioner was so masculine, she yelled at me. She basically said, be quiet. And I'm like, oh. So I went from being nervous to being even more nervous. And not the most opportune way to start a ceremony, especially if you're a first timer. So we do the combo first that day. And people ask me about the order of the medicines. And I've usually found Hape is better to do first. But there's always exceptions to the rule. But anyways, we did the combo first that day. In the preparation manual that I got in the original email, it said first timers could start with 1 test point. And I like that idea. I don't think the practitioner normally would have done that, even though it was her manual. but I requested it and she was okay with it. So I started with 1 dot of Kambo, and that went really well. It wasn't bad at all. I felt like a little of the sensation, but that was it. It did seem bad doing only one. But then she puts the rest on, and she ended up giving me 5 gates, which, looking back at it, I don't think I needed that many, especially not for my first time trying it. And I did it, but it was brutal. I remember during parts of it, and just to give you the layout, we were set up on mattresses side by side. I really wanted to just lay down. And at one, because I'm just leaning on one of my hands just for support to help keep me up. And one time I felt like I couldn't even do it and just started to, I think, lay down on my side. And she immediately said, sit up. So I'm like, okay. And I did, but I was in agony, just being supported by my one hand. I was down on my side and wanting to go over the whole time. It was really brutal, but I did it. And I ended up purging a lot for sure. All the water came out, bile as well. And I was amazed looking back on it, but it was something I could certainly be proud of. I did it, and afterwards, like after that part, it felt really good. So the Kambo itself was probably the best part of my first Kambo ceremony. Then, after everyone finished the Kambo, which takes around an hour, you kind of lose track of time, but that, I think, was what it felt like. Well, not, and I'm saying not in the moment, because in the moment you just don't know what's going on. But afterwards, that's what I could probably narrow it down to. She serves Sananga next, which are eye drops. I didn't know anything about these. I asked her if I could do the light batch, and she's like, okay. I don't think she had a light batch, so, but she told me I was going to do the light batch. This is where I think she made a mistake. She had me go first. So I go up to her in front of the 3 other guys, and she tells me what to do. So I lay there. She puts the drops in on my eyelids, and then while they're closed, and then I open them and I go in. So she did that. And when I opened my eyes, they started burning. And I wasn't expecting it. So I asked her, well, I'm like, oh, are these supposed to burn? And she's like, yeah. So I really got blindsided about that. And I don't think that's a good or ethical way to do that. You really should explain to the person that they're going to burn, because especially for me, who has sensitive eyes, they really felt like daggers were going in. It wasn't just a little tiny sting. And when you get used to it, it's more like pepper. But for those with sensitive eyes and they're brand new, for lack of a better term, it can really feel like knives are going in there. But I did it. I got through it. And amazingly, even after that, it felt good and I was happy. So at the very end, she calls us for the hopping. And this is why I thought it was weird she saved it for last. Again, I didn't know what I was getting into, so I asked for a light blend. And luckily, one of the guys there said he did have a lighter blend, which he broke out. Supposedly, he had various blends with him. He was kind of a traveler. He had a cool backstory. Maybe I'll get into that another time. So he offered his blend, thankfully, because I think she only had a crazy one. So when it's my turn, she really gave me a lot. And it's something I learned later, is less is more with a lot of these medicines. And I got blasted with, I don't want to say, it wasn't a hero's dose. It wasn't a amount of it, but way more than was needed or suitable for someone experiencing it for the first time. And it was really rough. It burned my nasal cavity for a while. And the crazy part was I got really dizzy, and it was extreme dizziness. I mean, the room was just doing circles around my head. I could barely sit up. I just felt so nauseous. And the other three guys, theirs wore off pretty quickly. They were done in 5 to 10 minutes. But for mine, it was crazy. And I, as at the point, I couldn't even sit up, even after I blew it out. And I just had to lie down on the mattress there for a while. It was around an hour. And I was really disappointed because the other three guys who were there for the combo and the practitioner, they went into the back of the house and she made, I think, broth for them or some type of soup and also had coconut waters. And I missed out on that because I couldn't eat. I was just laying on my side on a mattress in, in some old garage in a backyard in Baldwin Hills. And I didn't know what was going on. I was really worried because I had to drive home. I was wondering, is this going to wear off? Am I going to be okay? Because you don't know. And the practitioner wasn't really telling me anything. She wasn't even there at that point. She was in the actual house serving organic food and drinks. And I mean, good on her for that. That would normally be a great way to end it in most cases, but not in the way that I experienced it because I was given too much hape for that first time. I'm happy to report that after that hour, it did wear off and I was able to join the other people in the kitchen. They had already finished, but I did get to have some light conversation with them afterwards. And when all was said and done, at that point, I did feel great. I remember I did get something to eat on my own after I left. And I was just sitting there and I felt so relaxed, which was an amazing feeling because I was still suffering from a lot of anxiety and depression. So to just be, I didn't know I was in my body yet at that point, but I was embodied for sure, just completely out of my head, feeling really relaxed, feeling really clean too. The detox effects of Kambo are like none other. They are really good, especially for how fast it could happen as well. So I was really grateful afterwards and for the rest of the day, but there were unnecessary risks. And I'm all for, pushing it to the limit and testing my might, see how far I could go. But looking back on it, that wasn't the way to do those medicines, especially with the hape and sananga. The sananga wasn't an issue about dose, but just letting the person know what to expect and not surprising them, because that's not cool. You think you're losing your eyesight. And the hape, which I would find out, especially the next time I do it, you could certainly do too much, and it's not good. You could actually get hape poisoning, which one young lady I meet at a different ceremony told the facilitator about. And just to show you what synchronicity is, which I didn't really realize at the time, one of the guys said that he was having an ayahuasca ceremony there within a couple weeks and asked if I wanted to come. And of course, I was like, yeah, wow, what a coincidence. Now I know there are no coincidences, but at the time I was pretty amazed and impressed. But now that I've done Kambo a lot more, and I have a lot more knowledge because I serve it now myself, I could tell people that wasn't the way to do it. Things I would have liked to know about Kambo is, as I mentioned already, less is more. Going with a small amount is sometimes wiser. There are times and places to do bigger doses, but too much can certainly be a bad thing. I know in Western culture, we like to think too much is not enough. With Kambo, there certainly is too much. And a lot of people, well, I don't always say a lot, but there's a good amount of people that have bad experiences. And not only do they not do it again, they tell other people not to do it. And it could have helped those people. So I would certainly recommend starting with a safe dose of Kambo. I would recommend looking up what Sananga is and how it feels, and also researching Hape as well, and doing a light blend and a small dose. With Hape and Kambo, you could always add more. You could do round 2, you could do round 3, but you can't take them away if you give too much. So I recommend starting with test doses, see how you react, and then gauge it from there how you want to proceed. I also recommend doing Kambo sessions in a small, intimate setting. And you could argue that first one I did was that. There were other things that weren't so desirable, but at least there weren't a ton of people there, so I give it credit for that. However, some of the ones I went to after that were the larger ceremonies where there's a bunch of people sitting in a circle or semicircle or however they're arranged, just side by side. And the problem with those was there wasn't much attention given to the people receiving the medicines. And while I had some good experiences with them, I also know now much better not to do that. So I would start either by doing a private session, because that's amazing. You could go at your own pace. You don't have to feel like you have to show up the next person, which you shouldn't anyways. But depending on the facilitator and the energy of the ceremony, the people attending, sometimes that energy can get hijacked, and it could be a contest of, who could do the most amount of medicine. And that's, it's not like a college frat party where people want to show who can drink the most beer. I mean, it should be the complete opposite mentality of that. It should be more focused on the intention. And in the plant medicine field, there's a lot of intensity junkies and a lot of people just wanting to do intensity for intensity's sake, no other reason. And it's a shame because that could actually put a stop to the healing. You could stress your body and your mind out. So it's best to be intentional. And that's the last thing I'll recommend, is to find a facilitator that also embodies that. They're also about the intention. They're focused on your healing, not just, showing you a crazy time and you're like, wow, and they're just getting this praise afterwards. Oh, that was so cool, man. Yeah, it's, and I've seen stuff like that happen, and it's unfortunate, but you definitely want to be mindful and intentional and just focus on your healing, not fun or being cool. And it's great. If you enjoyed it afterwards, all the better. I mean, you don't want to have a miserable time either, no matter how much focus and attention the practitioner puts behind it. But you still want someone who's focused on helping you reach your goals, what you came there to do. Well, like I said, it's been a while since my first Kambo ceremony. And while it was a somewhat harrowing experience back in the day, at least now it made a good story and I have some good lessons from it for sure. If you're having trouble navigating your healing journey or picking a practitioner or deciding on if Kambo's right for you, then I recommend checking out my coaching program. There's an application, and depending on that, we could schedule a discovery call and see if I'm the right fit for you. Either way, I hope by sharing these experiences helped, and that you, if you decide to do it anyways, that you have a great ceremony. And just remember, at the end of the day, it's the medicine that's doing the work. Facilitators are important because they can certainly set the energy of the ceremony and they can navigate if stuff goes wrong, but it really is an intelligent medicine and it will give you the healing that you need. But you just want a facilitator that can work with you to give it to you in the best way possible. I was really grateful that I found Kambo because it's a very transformational medicine. Granted, it wasn't the first alternative healing modality that I tried, but it was the one where I started noticing real changes in who I was and in my life, which I really needed at the time. And I'm glad you're considering it as well, and I hope it has the same effect for you.